Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, 1,000 supporters stood outside the NFL and they protested Colin Kaepernick not having the job, saying that Colin Kaepernick was being blackballed. Kaepernick is the player who kneeled during the national anthem in protest of police violence and police murdering African Americans. Now, detractors look at this and say, well, he's not being blackballed. He just doesn't have the skill to play in the NFL. Mind you, the guy took the team, San Francisco 49ers, to the Super Bowl. Throughout the course of my life, as I push my way through the world, one of the things that always blew me away, and I don't fully understand, but I'm always blown away by it, is the way people roll the window up and go about their life. Now, I always ascribe this to being bribed. And the reason why I say bribed, it's like we make up 5% of the world's population. If we're going to talk about just the people in this particular country, okay, the majority of the country is in poverty. Now, in the majority of that country being in poverty, you have layers, a stratified society, going from people with nothing to people with massive amounts, almost like pharaohs of sorts. In dealing with this, each layer, particularly when you get to this thing of this 99%, where the people within that layer that represents the 99% full well understand scarcity. They can see it, they can smell it, they're only a paycheck away from it. They understand scarcity. If, 60% of people, if they got hit by a car loan, they wouldn't be able to afford it. You have like 50% of people who, again, if you got hit by a bill that they weren't necessarily expecting, wouldn't be able to afford it, just living paycheck to paycheck. Ignoring society while taking your paycheck, you can make a case as bribery. I see the vagaries of my society, but I'm not going to do anything about it because I have my paycheck, I have my pay packet, I have enough to take care of myself and my family. I'm rolling my window up. I'm living my life. I'm playing my Xbox. I'm eating my Cheerios. I'm watching my football. It's amazing to me that people roll the window up. It just blows me away. You look at tragedy, you look at horror, you look at poverty, you look at injustice, and you go on your way as if none of that stuff is taking place, and you just pursue your life, pretending it doesn't exist. You can understand that if you're seeing something as startling as the state or an apparatus of the state or a hand of the state murdering certain civilians, legal people in that country, that it's not crazy for the people who are part of that demographic or that subgroup to have feelings about it, particularly when doesn't seem to be an actual legal way to deal with those grievances. The United States, if you look at the number of people that cops murder in this country and compare it to the rest of the world, you will be aghast by that number. It is astonishing. It's true that African Americans get murdered more. It's also true that oftentimes those cops don't even go to trial, let alone get convicted. But whites also. I would imagine, I find it to be immensely courageous for somebody to see what's taking place. You see somebody get choked to death in broad daylight. You see somebody put their hands up and get murdered by a cop. You see the investigation reports that were spawned from those things, meaning from the Justice Department, saying that there was racial bias. I would make the case that there was also economic bias in both of those places, meaning it wasn't just a bad apple. The cops were targeting people of color and people impoverished. It is immensely courageous and brave to speak for people who don't have a voice. To see something like that takes place, to see it happen, to see it over and over and over and over again, and see no legal recourse for people being murdered. African Americans, we don't look at people in other parts of the country, meaning other African Americans, being murdered by cops as being separate and distinct from us. We consider those people us. That could happen to me. That could happen to my uncle, my nephew, my cousin. What Colin Kaepernick did was immensely brave and courageous. And like I said, I consider him a goddamn hero. To have all those eyes looking upon him. Now people complain, oh, it was so insignificant, but at the same token, he shouldn't have did it. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. During the 60s, those sit-ins were non-violent. And yet, from a societal standpoint, they were immensely violent. You had somebody essentially making a statement saying, we're not going to follow this order. The conception or the way society is arranged, we're no longer following that. We're creating a breach in protocol, one that you have to acknowledge and you need to recognize. Kaepernick kneeling to some degree was a similar thing. You're not going to roll your window up. You're not going to pretend as if this is not taking place. And yes, you may consider what I'm doing to be insignificant, but at the very least, you're having a conversation about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. It's immensely brave. Now, there's a catch, and there's a nuance. The people in the 60s didn't live easy lives when they took stands. Had nothing to do with fairness. In Kaepernick's case, he's dealing with NFL teams that are capitalistic enterprises. Those teams are trying to maximize their profit in the same way that McDonald's is trying to sell hamburgers. They want to get as much profit. Whatever the NFL sells, they want to sell as much of it as possible. Kaepernick taking his stance. In some degree, the team is looking at this as a business decision. Is this person skilled enough to offset what may be people not watching us because he's on our team? Now, mind you, this is fascinating to me, seeing that Michael Vick is on people's team and he was a dog killer. This guy makes a statement about police murdering human beings. And he's blackballed for it. People saying he doesn't have the skill for it. What's more likely? The team is making a business choice saying we don't necessarily want to bring him on because we don't want to deal with the kickback of people angry that he's taking the stance. Or that the guy, yes, he took us to the Super Bowl, but no, he doesn't have any talent. And that's the only reason he's not being signed. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. It may be true, I don't buy it. I don't buy it because I look at it as from a skill level standpoint. The skill level is being offset by, will we lose for bringing him on the team? A lot of this, I would argue, has to do with him and his stance. Him and his stance creates this crisis of sorts of we can't bring him on the team because people are going to essentially take issue with him being on the team. So the people who are saying he's being blackballed aren't crazy and aren't wrong. Those people are intuitive looking at this and saying, well, yeah, they have a fiscal incentive not to bring him on board. That said, I think he understood the risk involved in him taking that stance. Part and parcel of me calling it courageous is because he probably understood that his job would be on the line with him taking a stance in that way. He understood it. It's not right. I wish he didn't have to take the stance in the first place. I wish he could just get out there and play ball and he was in a society that didn't have those disparities with regards to how they treat people of color or how they treat people in various demographics. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. I just wanted to give my vocal support. I think the man, like I said, I think the man is immensely courageous to be able to do it. Or to do something like that with all those eyes watching and to know full well that he was going to get a backlash for doing it. He was courageous. He deserves the support that he's getting for it. I wish those people, the protesting is slightly weird only because we're talking about private teams. And it's like, which team are you trying to get to bring him on? So that's slightly weird. But I love the fact that they're standing with him. I wish those people stand for other things also. I'm a lefty, so yes, I have other issues on my plate that I wish they would stand for also. But I like that they're standing for him now. And he has all the support in the world for me. So I'll leave it at that. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, rate, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the work through Patreon. Thank you.